Data plays everywhere in every industry right now. I mean, starting from telecom to government to anywhere, if you have the right data and right understanding, you can actually come up with an understanding of a real problem, and then understanding leads to thinking of a real solution.
Hi everybody, welcome to the ITCN lounge. I'm here at the Daftarkhwan Fireside chat. With me we have Jamil and myself, Sana Mela. So Jamil, good to have you here. Good morning, first of all. We see that there's a lot of setup going on right now and we have our coffee mugs ready, but some very interesting talking points for today. But before delving into a really hardcore conversation, let's talk first about your journey as an entrepreneur. How's it been so far?
Alhamdulillah, very rewarding, I would say, full of learning.
Okay.
It's been 20 years, more than 20 years in fact.
More than 20 years.
In fact, close to 25 years. We started back in 2000 when I was in my undergrad at FAST Lahore. And we were basically doing our final year project, and I got myself volunteered into this research lab called Center for Research in Language Processing, headed by Dr. Samad Hussain. So our entire batch was basically very looking forward to that particular research center. So most of the people joined that. Towards the end, we had few publications. We were working on signal processing on language processing, which means that the language signal coming out of your mouth has certain properties. We worked on those properties and figured out that how we can be able to identify different languages. So for example, somebody speaking German, somebody speaking Spanish, somebody speaking Urdu, you can distinguish between them. So by the end of our undergrad, we thought we should transfer the technology into a more mature business idea, and we targeted the call center industry at that time. So that's where the initial journey began.
Right.
While we were doing that, a lot of things happened. Life happens to you as well. My group got enrolled along with me in speech and language processing masters in University of Edinburgh.
Okay.
Two of the folks joined. I was not able to, personal reasons, stayed back, joined LUMS, and then kept on doing my masters from LUMS, and then also working with my partners in UK, Scotland, and we were able to raise some funding on the same idea. Rolled that idea for about 3 years, 2.5 years in fact. And we raised about £500,000 British pounds through venture capital and grants, matured that entire thing. And by the time we were rolling it out, somebody else came in and captured the market. The IVR systems, interactive voice response systems, press 1 for English, press 2 for this. Today in Jazz and Mobilink and all these telcos, they are very common. So they took on the market in a much easier way, and that was a learning for us as engineers.
Right.
That beyond engineering, you need to think business, you need to think business dynamics and the changing landscape of solutions which are being crafted, which could be much easier as well. We were doing it hardcore through language processing and signal processing.
So you focused only on the product?
We focused only on the engineering side of the product mostly. But then the other part was that that entire flavor got us hooked to entrepreneurship. And when I graduated from LUMS, I went to our Vice Chancellor and asked him, at that time Dr. Zahoor Hassan, that we want to really work on some of our own ideas, and globally there is a concept of university incubation. At that time there was no concept of university incubation here in Pakistan. So he was gracious enough, gave us space in the computer science department, and that 10 by 10 square feet room was our launch pad here in Pakistan. We played with quite a few ideas. We tried to make some road ahead on the same signal processing and speech processing, but focused on a search engine for speech files, kind of a Google for speech files.
Right.
We ran into this business plan competition called Jungle Business Competition, supported by Intel Capital and Fenwick and West in California. We were amongst the top 8 out of 225 entries throughout the globe. Times were tough at that time. A couple of VCs actually flew into Pakistan at LUMS.
Okay.
And we were all excited, rolling all around, getting to our teachers when they were offering our term sheets and all. But their criteria was that we had to relocate ourselves. We were not able to get the visas. Single Pakistani male with insufficient ties to US.
And there was no government help, no strategic help.
No strategic help. So visas rejected, had to stay back. We improvised, and then we eventually came up with this concept that there is a huge demand for quality assurance and testing I was able to do information system auditing certification. Was doing some auditing for Nike as well. My other co-founder, Khurramir, he had 5 to 6 years of experience. Was doing his MBA from LUMS at that time simultaneously. So we joined hands and thought that, okay, let's improvise and push this out. The day we planned and we rolled out our email campaigns, we landed our first client, interestingly, and Rosie.pk, Monis Rahman.
Right.
And from there on, we ran those global campaigns, and
this is Qualitatem's journey.
This is Qualitatem's journey.
Right.
So Qualitatem was very focused on software testing, quality assurance, and cybersecurity. We evolved over the last 15 years as a global consulting company, recognized by Gartner in few of those quadrants, and today we are at TMMI level 4 and holding multiple certifications, working globally with the enterprise governments in assuring their digital transformations going right through a very meticulous quality assurance mindset. Primary clientele is US and Pakistan. Had been spending a lot of time in the US over the last 10 years. My other co-founder had been capturing the Middle Eastern market. We have been able to have a very strong footprint in the Saudi market for the last 10 years. And then Qualitatem also gave us a lot of opportunity to try on a lot of other ideas. We spun out a lot of businesses from it.
Yeah.
Over the period of time, we founded this company called Virtual Force,
Yeah.
which is a very focused product development platform.
Yeah.
We brought in another co-founder. That was again a learning that you cannot run everything to
Just
yourself.
as two people, yes.
Yes. So we brought in our co-founder Tanzilur Rahman. In fact, I had to scout for him because he was there in US getting done with his Fulbright and MBA from Babson. And I met him a couple of times over there. We synced in that harmony of frequency match, and then we thought to do it together. From Virtual Force, we then invested into quite a few companies locally and globally, Airlift, Oladog, Baby Planet, and Medicheck in Sweden, and then quite a few others.
Right.
So I would say the journey was full of learning and very rewarding, and kept us on our toes, kept us motivated. There are highs and lows, but I think the highs are much powerful than the lows.
Yeah, I think two things that come up from this is, one is that when people talk about startups in Pakistan or generally in their business journey, the hardest bit is to find the right co-founder. So when I look at your journey, I'm like, okay, all of them have stuck together. I mean, mashallah, mashallah. But how does that happen really?
I think I was lucky. In fact, we had a breakup as well in a very early stage of our career.
Okay.
When we founded the company from LUMS, we were 3 co-founders.
Right.
But every human is different. And in 3 years, we were able to achieve quite a lot. We had quite a few awards to our credit. We were the first startup that was recognized by Pasha as the best startup in Pakistan. We were recognized by Apecta. We were recognized by MIT Global Acceleration Competition as well. But then when we started thinking through, okay, a lot of awards there, a lot of things happening, but then where is the business going?
Yeah.
When you started defining that objective, started defining the discipline, then things started getting awry, and we figured out that our frequencies do not match. And we had to end up that particular relationship. So 2 of the founders from that particular group stepped out, myself and Khurram. We were just focused on one thing. Our other co-founder had different views and different thoughts, so he pursued his own journey.
Right.
And I think in those scenarios, right advisors make a lot of difference.
Right.
I think we were very bitter at that time. We were not able to think. Mind was boggled. But we were lucky to have Abdulrazak Dawood on our board of advisors.
Right.
And I think one advice that gave us was, either you can fight it out and lose all your energy, or you can build up with that energy all together a new platform for yourself. The choice is yours.
Right.
I think we took that particular advice and just focused on building something new, something from scratch with no strings attached, and that made the entire difference.
And also, what makes founders stick together? Like, is it the vision, or are you betting on each other, or the business?
I think it's a mix of all, but it's primarily the vision and the personal resilience to cope up with all those challenges.
Okay.
I still remember when my co-founder was graduating from, so I graduated earlier than him.
Okay.
He graduated a year later, and he was doing his MBA from LUMS. So an MBA from LUMS in 2005 was a big shot, big thing, right? And when his classmates saw that he's not pursuing a typical career ladder in corporate landscape, there were a lot of questions around him. And that pressure was sinking onto him for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the friends went to their parents, his parents. Your child is at the best position to actually launch his career in the corporate world right now, and he's not. And if he loses a couple of years,
It's
then
over.
it will be over for him.
Yeah.
Lum's MBA would be
That's
of no
how
use.
we typically take it, yeah.
But I was, together we had several talks around that, and kudos to him. He was able to, I would say, cope up with that pressure. His resilience showed up. And today what we are was based on all those hard decisions that we took over the period of time.
Fantastic. Also, like when I see both Qualitatem and your journey as Virtual Force, and then moving from a local enterprise to becoming a global enterprise, having that exposure, then delving into the investment market and the venture capital forums, how do you see that evolving? Like, there's a lot happened in Pakistan, so you're aware of it. A lot of other people are also aware of it. But there is a lot that is still unsaid. So what is that unsaid that you'd like to share?
So I think Pakistan is still a very nascent ecosystem when it comes to venture capital and entrepreneurship. The whole buzz started back in 2011 with PITB's Plan 9 and Karachi's Nest.io.
Yeah.
And then the Ignite launched all these NICs. A lot of entrepreneurs joined it with that spirit. But the real challenge was that the ecosystem itself was not all together. We didn't have a typical investment mindset here. Our investors are more focused towards real estate at that time or stock exchange at that time.
So everything was about an ROI,
Quick bucks and quick ROI. Thinking great, thinking long term, thinking 20 years down the lane is not the mindset that exists. I still remember, I'll go back to Abdurrazak Daud's saying that we as Pakistanis seldom think greatness. That other nations and other entrepreneurs has thought, and they built businesses not for themselves but their generations and their countries for 20 to 30 years with a 20 to 30 years vision in ahead. That's where we need to rethink this, because over the last 20 years we have not been able to build those kind of enterprises yet.
So we're very in the moment and present.
We are very in the moment. We are looking short term. We are looking for short term gains, and this is where I would say the government, the business sector, the investment sector has to come all together, because economies would only survive and thrive when businesses would thrive. Governments cannot drive economies. Business drive economy.
Definitely.
And businesses need to be facilitated.
And then the government's job is to facilitate.
And the ecosystem needs to come together. I would say all these family offices, all the angels. I mean, when we started investing into companies, we knew that we will be burning money, and we burnt money. But the idea was that if we are able to inspire somebody to take few steps forward, those steps can lead into some kind of a new innovation and outcome. Even if it's unsuccessful, it will be a trailblazer for people to follow.
Okay.
And that's where I would say over the last 5 years, the kind of things that have happened by the support of these IT entrepreneurs from 2005 to 2010, they launched their services companies, and then they earned money, and then they reinvested that money into probably not too much of real estate, not too much of stock exchange, but into the startups. To help other founders not make those kind of mistakes and at least take their ideas forward. That's where things need to happen more. People need to be more audacious, because at the end of the day, a stagnant money is of no use for anybody.
Absolutely. So
if it's floating around, it's doing something and it's creating opportunities and possibilities.
Right. So over time, I think a lot of people have had this conversation. We've also had this conversation many times, that the money is sitting in real estate, and the current real estate situation is also not too great. It's not offering too much. And the family offices have been very particular about what they're scouting at this point. And, so when a layman or a general investor talks about, who's not part of the IT sector, always looks at it like a risk factor, because they feel like, oh, we're not aware of this ecosystem. So what is the one thing which could be their hook to, let's say, I have the money resting in, there are a lot of other people who have money resting in, but they're scared of the fact that, oh my God, how do I approach? What's my next step? So what would be that?
So similar to a common, I would say, phenomena of a good team, you need to have complementary skills. I would say investors need to come together with complementary skills as well. Somebody would be very good in finance. We need people with investment banking background, people who could be able to transform the entire financial journey of any organization. We need people who are very tech savvy. We need people who have deep pockets. So these kind of consortiums need to come together so that different angles of an enterprise and investment can be fully vetted and then supported in terms of mentorship as well. If you are trying to bet on something all alone, it would always be tough because you cannot really cope up with all those variables and learnings of a startup that actually exist and make it a failure or a success. So there needs to be a complementary game together in investment as well.
Right, so they could reach out to incubators, or are there any VC circles available?
So in Pakistan, I would say there are a few VCs, though they need to be more active. They need to be more audacious in terms of putting in their money. But then the right mentoring needs to come together. We need to understand different aspects of a startup, from financial to technology to legal to growth and global outreach. Then investors from all these backgrounds need to come together and co-invest.
Right.
That co-investment should not only be putting money but also time into the whole gig as well.
So developing it as a business.
That's how every ecosystem globally evolved, with all those learning. And the more failures or successes happen, those learnings can then have a trickle-down effect into the rest of the ecosystem.
Right. So we're also, failure is a very tricky word in Pakistan. We're not too used to celebrating it. But moving forward, we've spoken about all of it, and with your experience, the current market situation and the way the global world, the economics and the technology is evolving, what are the top trends that you're looking at in terms of technology? What should the founders be looking at? What should the VCs be looking at?
So I think we should not be looking at technology alone. We should looking at real problems, because unless you are not able to find real problems, technology cannot really make much of a difference. For example, in Pakistan, if you see, there are problems in healthcare.
Right.
Can you solve those problems by having some kind of a technology?
Right.
There are problems in public transport. Airlift came in. I still feel that there is a huge potential out here for public transport because it's not being taken care by the government.
Yeah.
People want to pay. There is a demand. Question is, can someone come in with a great idea, and not only a great idea, but a great execution, and not only a great execution, but with a sustainable experimentation as well?
Right.
If all three click together,
then
it could be a $1 billion idea again.
Right.
So Pakistan, and I would say rest of the countries, wherever founders are, they need to look into those specific genuine problems coupled by technology. Yes, AI is everywhere. AI can be in real estate, could be in ad tech, could be in health tech, could be in education tech, but then the problem needs to come in from those industries itself. And the domain experts can really think of those problems in a much better way, I would say.
Right, and I agree with you on that, because let's say similarly, we spoke about healthcare. There was a time a lot of healthcare products came in the market, and they were all developing or serving the same product, pretty much similar, and it didn't really go forward. And a lot of times, founders also complain on how there's no data available, on how there's still, the ecosystem below is not available. So I think when we look at Pakistan's startup ecosystem, it's not just the founder and the tech, it's also how we are developing the entire sector. So we have good hopes. I am hopeful. I'm sure you are too.
Just on that point, data is the king.
Yeah.
We don't have a data, and nobody is actually working on data.
Yeah.
It's basically the government's responsibility to make sure that all the data stays
available,
there.
Yes.
I think this I2I platform was doing a good job in terms of having an eye on all the startup related data and investment related data. But then they are again doing it voluntarily.
Yeah.
So somebody else needs to come in and have that done properly so that we could be able to learn from the data.
Yeah.
And data plays everywhere in every industry right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, starting from telecom to government to anywhere, if you have the right data and right understanding, you can actually come up with an understanding of a real problem, and then understanding leads to thinking of a real solution.
I think a lot of people would say that it first goes back to recording of the data, and then who has access to that data. So there is data, but it's still, it's fragmented, and we hope it comes together. And I don't know if it's just the government's responsibility, but who does that is also a big thing. So we're sitting here in this event and looking back at the 2 decades. There's so much to talk about Pakistan's ecosystem. happy things, sad things, there are makeups and breakups always. But, in terms of your professional journey or in terms of the takeaway that you want, whoever is listening to you, what would be the top 3 things that you'd like to highlight?
I would say if you're onto an entrepreneurial journey, yes, there would be in Pakistan. It's one of the difficult landscapes to evolve as an entrepreneur and sustain. A lot of social pressures, a lot of financial pressures, no availability of institutional capital or any kind of other banking, I would say, instrument for entrepreneurs to find support in their down cycles. But still, there is hope. They need to look at global opportunities, start working on their ideas. There are a lot of global ecosystems which are being developed in Europe, in Nordic, in South America, in US, in Middle East right now, and their incubators and accelerators are offering global, I would say, opportunities to entrepreneurs. So our entrepreneurs should be looking at that.
Okay.
And then I really hope that if we are able to find the stability that is much anticipated, then the FDI that came in over the last 5 years, about $1 billion into startup ecosystem, it will repick its cycle, and hopefully the years to come would be much more beneficial for Pakistan, because Pakistan is at a stage and at a point where being such a huge population, the opportunities are being monitored by everybody around the globe. Nigeria is captured, Indonesia is captured, Bangladesh is captured, India is captured, China is captured. The only, I would say, ecosystem with such a population that is uncaptured is Pakistan right now.
Right.
And there's a lot of room for people to make money. So again, we need to stay hopeful, stay optimistic, keep doing what we are doing, learn from the mistakes, not repeat those mistakes, and come together as Pakistanis, I would say, support each other.
Right. I mean, that's a great message. For Pakistan, I think the one conversation that we keep coming back to is that we need to all collectively hold on to the ecosystems we're part of. And as people, there is a lot of sadness. I would say there is a lot of people, there's a lot of talent that has left Pakistan in the last few years, or at least particularly in the last year. And for the young graduates or people who are still looking and do not have the option to right away move out of Pakistan, there is still a lot to do in this country. There is a lot that has happened. Like Jamil has said, it's an untapped market, and an advantage of working in an untapped market is that there's always a lot to do and explore, but with the right people. And so on that note, we'll enjoy our coffee. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Sana.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here.
Pleasure being here.